Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Linkin Park album review. So let me share the screen to show you the request. This has come through from Drum Master. For a future album review, I want to recommend 1,000 Suns by Linkin Park. So it's given us a bit of background information on it, which is always helpful. This album wasn't very well received when it came out because of how experimental and different it was compared to Linkin Park's albums before this. Over the years, though, it has gained a lot more positive attention. Side note, because it's a concept album, 6 out of the 15 songs are interludes, which transition into the actual songs. Any early thoughts on that, Brett, before we look at it on Wikipedia?
No.
Lost for words there.
Lost for words. Just very quickly, I think the fact that it's something a little bit different. I think why I was lost for words because there's a couple of Linkin Park stuff, which is Linkin Park, which I actually quite like. But I can imagine if I had a whole album of that sort of stuff, I probably would enjoy it. So seeing a more different take on what they would normally do is probably quite appealing. But I said there's other stuff of old Linkin Park that I did enjoy. So it mixed minds.
Let's have a look then. So it's the 4th album released in 2010. So something I noticed here, as was mentioned in the comment, it's a concept album dealing with human fears such as nuclear warfare. So the band has said the album's a drastic departure from their previous work. They've experimented on different and new sounds. It references numerous socialists and blends human ideas with technology. So it's like they're going quite deep here with the meaning of this album, the songs on the album. So it's got me kind of quite interested in it, really. In terms of the songs themselves, as has already been said, there's quite a few interludes on here. So there's some short tracks. Sorry, a second. So the total length is 48 minutes, which is pretty standard. But as you can see, there's quite a few short tracks here, 57 seconds, 18 seconds, 1 minute 34, 139, 123. It's kind of got me quite intrigued by this. I don't really know too much about Linkin Park. I know like some of their big hits. I guess I quite like the. I suppose they did that one with Jay-Z, though, didn't they? I guess he was the one doing the rapping. But I look at the style here. Genres: electronic rock, art rock, alternative rock, industrial rock, experimental rock, rap rock, progressive rock. So quite a lot of different rock sort of styles on the album. So like I said, quite intrigued as to what it is. Don't know whether I'm going to like it or not. That's another matter. But just the fact it's something a bit different, I'm well up for it. What about you, Brett? Any final words before we go off and listen to it?
No, not too much. I think, I'm looking forward. I think that's a concept album as well. I'll be interested to see whether it's sort of deep meaning and what sort of comes out of it from it. And the fact that we've got those interludes, it's a whole thing to go through. So I'm intrigued to definitely see this side of Linkin Park and what they have to offer.
Okay, so we're going to head off and listen to the album. But don't worry, we'll be right back with you in just a second to let you know exactly what we thought of it. See you in a second. Right, so if you listen to the album, we'll go straight over to the main man. So Brett, what did you think of 1,000? I'm talking about you. 1,000 Suns.
Okay, right. It's been a while since we did our introduction, so I can't remember so I don't know if we actually spoke much about Linkin Park, because they're unusual and I think you would agree, on paper, and probably most of their records probably not sort of a cup of tea, but the songs of theirs that I do know and like, really, really like. There's something about it. It's not even a case that it's quite popular commercial. It's very hard to explain. What's great about listening to this album, it was like almost seeing another different side of Linkin Park, which was enjoyable to hear. But it was a bit of sort of variation to that. I was also going to say, this is obviously being a concept album. I do feel, we've done a few concept albums now, they kind of need to be compared or rated on their own side of things, because they are artistic. They are done for a different purpose compared to a commercialized pop album, so we say. But to get to the point that overall, I really enjoyed listening to this one. I'll get the negatives sort of done probably out of the way first off. There were times where it felt like some of the songs did go on, but they were nice to listen to, but didn't feel I had much to them and just sort of kept going without much going on there. Even though we did the little introduction, we knew like this is about like warfare and radioactive sort of stuff there. But towards the end of the album, I kind of forgot what it was really sort of down. And it wasn't like other concept albums. I felt more invested and it was sort of going on. Now, granted, if I was maybe paying more attention to the lyrics and was feeling more about it, but I was just enjoying each song as their own. There was some good, definitely some very, very good songs on there. Okay, not like any sort of real standout, so we say, pop songs. That would have been that's a standout. But I said it's not really that sort of album for that. But at the same time, there weren't the songs that I didn't like as much there. I appreciate them being on the album for them being different, and they were still being part of the sort of concept art for this one here. I also I found myself comparing some of the bits here to some artists I liked. I found there was a lot of not influence, but what I sounded like Pet Shop Boys, Beatles, Pink Floyd. But I said by the end of it, I felt it was a really nice one to listen to.
Okay. Yeah, so following on from what you said, sort of what I know about Linkin Park is not very much. I know they're massive. There's obviously Numb, Encore with Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Really, I like that one. It's a really good song. I'm sure there's one or two others that I know as well. So yeah, don't know too much about them. But I kind of knew that, yeah, the kind of bit of rap in there, then the kind of harder stuff, but like mixed up. I'd say this is a very varied album. Lots of different things, going different types of songs. I'd very much say that. Some kind of more rappy songs, some more kind of much heavier songs with some heavy metal, and some much softer songs. So it did have a lot of variety, which I did appreciate. Even I think kind of like what you were touching on, even like some of the songs that maybe I didn't enjoy as much, I did appreciate them for being different, like having that variety, I suppose. So yeah, it's a concept album, and yeah, I'd say I was I'd say above average for me, this one. I think the last album we did, I said below average just because maybe with Kesha, maybe I expected a bit more of Kesha. I thought maybe more kind of my thing, whereas Linkin Park, probably not really my go-to music generally. So because of that, I think I found the album a little bit maybe better than what I possibly expected it to be like. So as we go through each song, we'll talk about it. And as usual, just to say, yeah, I know like it's about war and stuff, but I just really struggle with the lyrics. Really struggle to understand lyrics unless it's very, very clear and obvious. So the first track then was the Requiem.
Yeah.
Had a haunted feel to it. Some slow singing, surprisingly from a woman, it seemed. But it wasn't a proper song. It was just part of the introduction, I guess. So not really too much to say on it.
Yeah, I think remember the comments about this album, obviously a lot of interludes, and then we start off with the interlude. In fact, I know we'll get to it. The second track was also so I've never had back-to-back interludes, let alone at the start of an album. But I thought, yeah, it's an interlude, so it's not a lot to say. I think it did set up the scene quite nicely. It did have this sort of modern warfare kind of feel to it, a bit eerie, a bit, as you said, a bit spooky, a bit, something, setting you up ready for, which I really, really appreciate. And then the female / robot singing, really, really liked as well. I said it really always felt like a futuristic kind of, because that was it was like apocalypse, wasn't it? Kind of thing towards the end of it. But yeah, it was a real good sort of setting to the for the album.
Yes, and then we had the Radiance. So it's a continuation of the first track. There was a man speaking. Well, again, it's also not a song. It's just like an interlude or introducing us to the album. I didn't really catch what the man was saying there, but not really much more to add on this one. It was just part of the introduction, I guess.
Yeah, it's weird. But I don't know why they just make that intro track just one track. Yeah. There's obviously meaning behind the title stuff there. I also couldn't pick up. It was best way to say it was like sort of like walkie-talkie in here, walkie-talkie sort of talk, which again had this sort of space rock kind of feel, and again really set the mood of everything going. I didn't know, because I know later on there are famous speeches coming on, so I didn't know if this was a famous thing on there, but it wasn't that clear. But again, just sort of carries on from the first one, sets the tone.
Yeah, so the first real song really is Burning in the Skies. And at the beginning, I thought, this doesn't really sound like what I thought Linkin Park sounded like. Very nice, soft singing. Again, then it started to build up a little bit. But it was just very easy to listen to. A very easy to listen to type of song. And I can see why this song was released, although it didn't actually do that well in the charts when I had a look. But I thought it was quite a promising start, this one. It was a bit of a surprise, to be honest. But it kind of makes sense because it is the beginning of the album. They're kind of getting into it maybe, and started off relatively soft maybe. But yeah, good song.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty much written the same sort of stuff from here. It almost feels like this could be a Coldplay type of. It had that same sort of speed. Like I said, it wasn't a lot to it. It was just a nice sort of beat to it. And yeah, very, very, I wouldn't say calm, but yeah, no, quite kind of relaxing it was like a real soft pop rock kind of thing. Very unlike Linkin Park. Well, I say that, but Linkin Park at times in their songs do that sort of soft singing, don't they, occasionally. Again, Thelma Toast happened on this one. Really nice singing, nice sort of beat. And as you said, I think because it's early on, it's sort of again setting the mood. Again, by the title, I didn't pick up too much on the lyrics, but Burning Skies, obviously, it's maybe stuff's going on. Things are starting to kind of happen as we do get on. We do get a bit more variation of the songs and maybe set different moods from there. But as you said, yeah, I can see why this was released. I can also see why he also probably didn't do massively well. It's just, but I really liked it. Just a nice, all right song.
Yeah. Then we had Empty Spaces. I just got what? Question mark, because by the time I actually went onto my notes, Empty Space had already finished. And I didn't even catch any of it. I haven't really concentrated. I don't know what that was. Just was it 18 seconds or something? Just a short interlude. I've got absolutely nothing to say on that whatsoever. What about you?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot here actually, to be fair.
Okay, go on.
More than I was going to say, there was another song, just because I enjoyed it. Tyler Creator had the same sort of thing. By the time he said the lyrics of the into song and wrote the title down, it had already finished. It was a bit like this as well. But what I didn't quite understand is again, sort of, it had like sort of war sound stuff, but it didn't merge from the last song. It didn't merge into the next song either. So it's a good opportunity. It was obviously is an interlude, but well, I think of interlude, obviously, like as in bringing in one song from another potentially. It doesn't have to be, I guess, but for maybe this opportunity was going to be that short. Why just do where you're tying the songs together? But it didn't end from the last one. Didn't bring into the next one. So yeah, in fact, we've talked longer than the song it was itself. So yeah, move on.
Well, to be fair, you did have quite a bit to say about it, yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Next one then, When They Come For Me. So I wasn't keen on the sound at the start, but it was a completely different song to the previous. Obviously not, I'm not talking about Empty Space, I'm talking about Burning in the Skies. This one is rappy, which I know that they have this in their locker. One of the guys, does the rap. I just didn't like this one at all. It's loud and rap heavy, and it's just not for me. It does build up towards the end to give it something else, but I still don't like it. But I would say it was still quite an interesting sounding track, though. I could still kind of appreciate it to some extent, and I like the fact it felt quite artistic, quite unusual, a bit different, without actually without really liking it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I said in our introductions as well. This to me, felt very more traditional Linkin Park. And again, as much as it probably wasn't my favourite one on there, and if the album was more like this, probably wouldn't have liked the album as much. I still appreciate it. It still wasn't bad. It was still, again, I know, like you, didn't really pick up on the lyrics, but, it was audible, could hear it was listened to. And again, it did have this sort of warfare sort of feel to it. And I have to hit it, my toes did sort of tap through that one as well. And then at the end, there's had a real sort of indie Indian kind of feel to it there. So it was a bit surreal in places there. But again, I think a good song for the album, just probably not one of my favourites.
Yeah, then we had Robot Boy. So slow song so far. I actually felt it was a bit boring. Not really much was happening with it. But yet again, it did feel very different to the previous song. So I just wrote down here, I'm enjoying the variety. Even if the song, like I said, was a little bit boring. I made a little note here as well. So why are they singing at the same time? Like it felt like it's different people singing, but exactly the same thing at the same time. But yeah, so that was that one for me.
Yeah, just on that note there, so I've put a little note on that one. I said the singing together, it kind of makes them feel like a boy band, which was kind of weird. And out of all the boy bands, think about how many boy bands, all that. I put here very much like BTS out of all of them. I don't know why. There must have been something, I think, because it was a while since I listened back to this, something specifically about BTS, why it sounded like that. But again, as I said, like you said, very different to the first one. I quite like this one, but again, as I said with some of the other tracks, it sounds really negative. They have this sort of boring feel to it. I think they have this sort of chorus sort of thing going, and it just sort of repeats itself, and it just kind of, I think when we talk about it doesn't really go anywhere with that. And again, it's really nice. There's nothing wrong with it, but it does then seem to get a little bit boring. But otherwise, I did prefer this one to the previous one.
So then we had Jornada del Muerto. I don't know how that translates. Must be Spanish. So I think this is a continuation. And I've got here, basically, it's the ending of Robot Boy with an added instrument to finish things off, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly what I sort of put there as well. Was a bit about lyrics being sort of backwards as well. And again, I think could just, again, I know they wanted into this stuff, but it just pretty much merged from the other song. But it almost changing it from the sort of boy band popping into it went to sort of a dancey kind of thing. But yeah.
Then we had Waiting for the End. So I put down, this is interesting. Kind of rap at first and now some singing. And I really enjoyed this. I thought, I really enjoyed the singing part. Only thing I would question here, I'm not sure if the rap really works though. There's a bit of a, maybe too much contrast with the sort of nice kind of soft singing and then this kind of more, maybe slightly more aggressive style of rock rap kind of stuff. Because I just think it changes the feeling of the song quite a bit. Although I guess with the rap, it was only really at the beginning, and then the sort of the singing came on, and there was a small bit towards the end with the rap as well. And I just felt it felt quite epic, this song. I put this for quite a few of the songs. It does feel quite epic. And I think for me, definitely the best song so far. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. The best song so far. I enjoyed that. It's a good song.
Yeah, a lot going on with this one. I said can't quite work out the genre, as you said there. I've been putting reggae here, rock, pop, rap. Again, really great voices throughout. I've put here, there's elements of Coldplay, feels like, Radiohead, Beatles. A lot going on, but it did kind of work. I can't comment whether you're saying with the rap bit not working as much there. Again, might have to re-listen to and see what I think with that, but I didn't feel it didn't work. That I just put here sort of rap could be more extreme, but it isn't. And I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but by the end, it was one of those songs. It was called like a bit of a grower. The start wasn't sure, but by the end of it, actually was good. And I probably would agree with you. I think it probably would be the best song so far out of the ones we had listened to.
So then we had Blackouts. I just put, ooh, this is awful. Growling. That's the word we're looking for, right? Growling. However, at least it continues the variety, with the variety of different themes. So, this is basically heavy metal Linkin Park style. It's the worst song by far so far, following on from what was the best song for me, Waiting for the End. Although it does get better towards the end with a change of singing style, so that the growling does stop and there is a kind of more normal style of singing that takes over. But that's what this album gives you. It just seems to be a whole concoction of stuff, so much going on, different types of songs, which quite like that, even if I didn't like this song at all.
So one of the first ones I put here, Lee is going to hate this song. In terms of there. I get what you're saying, yeah. So I put here, obviously, I had the start of sort of like this 80s synthetic sound, and then, it had this sort of, what I put here, classic early noughties, Limp Bizkit sort of style, rapping, screaming, and you sort of say to put it from there. But yeah, strangely, halfway through, it changes up and it changes to almost like a totally different song. I feel it's like Metallica being like a caterpillar turned into a butterfly of Coldplay, which probably seems really offensive to Metallica. But the fact is they properly sort of changed up halfway through. So again, like we said, one of the previous tracks, I think if there was a lot more like that first part of that song more on the album, probably would have felt different in the album. But again, because this is concept album, is trying to, even though I think that I said this point, kind of lost where, like I said before, you could get the warfare kind of feel to it. By this point, I kind of forgotten all of that and didn't know what was sort of being sung about, for what reason about there. But yeah, like I said again, not my favourite, but I appreciate it being on the album, and at least halfway through it did change up.
So then we had Wretches and Kings. So we had a speech at the beginning. Maybe Brett, you can fill us in a bit more about that speech later. And yeah, I was like, ooh, it's a very metal start. Then we had some rap. I just really didn't like this one. Very shouty style of singing / rapping. Unenjoyable, heavy instruments. Possibly worse than Blackout. So this one just wasn't for me.
Yeah, I can't say too much on the speech. I've got here sort of like a free world speech by a guy called Mario Zavio. And in short, what I've put here is I was like another song, Public Enemy, who do this song like Fight the Power. It very much that kind of feel to it. And actually, if you realise that and like write about rebellion and stuff, which is why I found the album, because at what point why it's almost like talking about different subjects totally, which is not a bad thing. It just seemed a bit out of nowhere, really. So that's why I was saying in my introduction, songs in here again, which again wouldn't have been my particular favourite on here, but I appreciate being on the album. I get it, and like I said, at least it fits to sort of what it was trying to sort of talk about, even though I just said it kind of is away from the rest of what the album was trying to say. So yeah, Fight the Power.
Yeah, then we had Wisdom, Justice and Love. From what I could gather from this, it was just a speech about humanity. That's all I've got for that.
Yeah, exactly that. So this was a Martin Luther King.
That's about Luther King, okay.
Yeah, speech there. And actually, I thought with the music kind of worked really well. And this is where I was then thinking about concept albums. And again, it sort of reminds me of like Sabaton. And I was thinking, well, as a concept album, and I'll probably say this to the end, Sabaton is probably an album I would prefer. But this is where I was showing elements of that. But like I said, I was still kind of a bit lost of what the whole sort of message story was coming through. But yeah, again, like a really good concept song on the album.
So then we had Iridescent. So I was like, wow, this sounds good. It's a nice song. Up there with Burning in the Skies, but maybe not as good as Waiting for the End. It has quite an epic feel to it. There's that word again, epic. Possibly a bit too long, but a good song overall. This is definitely more my style. I quite enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I also like this one as well. I actually haven't put a lot for this, but I do remember it was quite long. And I said, even though it did seem a bit boring, but not in a bad way, because it was nice, enjoyable to listen to. So it was like a nice, slow, powerful ballad. And again, it just shows sort of the different variation within the album. And I said, it just really worked as part of the concept album. So yeah, definitely one of the better songs on the album.
So then we had Fallout. So similar to Jornada del Muerto, this to me just felt like the ending really to Iridescence. There's really much to it. It's just an interlude, and it connected onto the next song as well.
Yeah, I again haven't put a lot here. Again, we've got this sort of robot voice merged from the last song, bringing into the next one as a sort of an interlude one. But again, it's been like the walkie-talkie bit style, the robot voice. Even when the lyrics are really clear, we still don't pick them up. But it's even more annoying where you can't even, because it's stuff like you probably would be able to pick up the lyrics if you're just listening to a robot talk, but couldn't really make it out and stuff. So yeah, just interlude to the next one.
So the next one was The Catalyst, which I think, I'm not looking at it now, but I think from memory, so this is the longest song on the album, perhaps. And this was connected from Fallout. But for me, this was a tad too shouty for me. I'm not really into that sort of shouty style of singing. Not really my thing, but there have been worse songs on the album. But for me, this song just went on for way too long. It was just really dragging on. And I'll be honest, I did get quite bored of it.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the longest song on the track. You're probably right on that one there. This is going back to a sort of more classic standard Linkin Park kind of feel, the rock and hardcore stuff there as well. Just didn't feel it didn't mix as well as some of the other ones. But again, it wasn't a favourite. I know I've said a lot, favourite song on the track. Appreciate it. I did quite didn't mind it on the album, but as I put here, just as you said, just a bit long and sort of lost sort of interest sort of towards the end. I'm sorry, because I've had put here, it did change sort of halfway to go a bit mellow halfway through, but I think at that point it'd already been a bit too long and just lost that bit of interest, even though it probably did get better. Yeah,
so we finished off with The Messenger. So I put here, because at the beginning it sounded very slow, but a slow song to end the album. And it was a simple but powerful acoustic song. And I thought it was a really good song to end the album on. Thought he sang it really well. And yeah, really liked it. This was definitely would be up there. I mean, for me, we'll talk about the conclusion at the end. So just a good song. I liked it. Good way to end the album.
Yeah, echo same things there. Slow acoustic guitar ending. Great way to sort of end the album. Like I said, very simple, not much to it. Literally singing acoustic sounds, very powerful. I don't know if you're going to say, I'll say as we'll come to my one, but for me, that was probably my favourite song on the album, which is a bit, it's different because obviously I think other songs that I did like were good for different reasons, but for that one, like I said, it was very short. There wasn't a lot to it, but it was just, I think because it was the end of the album, it just fitted really nicely. But yeah, was probably overall my favourite.
Okay, so just briefly to sum up, because we are running out of time. Yeah, I found this album kind of quite hit and miss. So there were some songs that I really did quite enjoy and others that I really didn't like at all. Like I said, I still appreciated the variety that was given. So when there's so much variety, there's always a good chance I'm going to like some of the stuff, but dislike some of the other stuff. So I suppose just looking at this now, The Messenger, Iridescent, Waiting for the End are the three that stand out. Burning in the Skies are the four that stand out for me. Thought they were all good songs, whereas some of the others I didn't particularly like. So yeah, mixed bag, but overall I thought it was quite a successful album for me because I wasn't quite sure if I was going to like this or not. So quite enjoyed it. I would like to have understood it more, but again, that's a weakness of mine, understanding lyrics and stuff. So I just kind of take the songs for what they are, kind of how they sound to me, without going too deep into the lyrics. But yeah, fairly decent. Quite enjoyed the album overall. Brett, what about you?
Yeah, exactly the same as you said there. I agree with the same sort of songs that I enjoy as much as you did there. Like I said, I know there's bits of it I didn't enjoy it as much, but even from early on, appreciate them being on there. And I got the feeling of the album. And like I said, concept albums, I think, do need to be looked at differently compared to other albums. But like I said, when it got to the end of it, I didn't feel like I wasted my time. I didn't feel like, I hated that. I definitely got something from it.
That's
and
good.
again, like you, yeah. But again, like you, it was, and again, it's probably downfall to itself as well. Just trying to understand the sort of lyrics and getting the full sort of message from it. As I said earlier on, like I think for me, the standout concept album for me is Sabaton, and I think that's the primary. But like I said, this is definitely one of the better ones listened to as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Paul Amodio, if you're watching, hello. So yeah, I think that is pretty much it from us. Keep the requests coming in, and we'll have another album review for you guys in 2 weeks' time. Remember, if you want to appear on our channel, you can just request an album, and maybe just send us in the comment section. Just say, yeah, I'd like to appear on your channel to introduce the video. You can be the first ever person to do that at the time of this recording. So see you guys soon. Bye.